If you've watched any of my videos or read any of my books, then you know that I'm a believer in mnemonics. While they're no substitute for truly understanding a subject, I found that they are a great stepping stone on the way to becoming an expert. With that in mind, I wanted to look at the process of making mnemonics to help you craft your own. After all, the mnemonics you're going to remember best are the ones you've come up with yourself. I recently released second editions of each of my 3 books, Memorable Psychopharmacology, Memorable Psychiatry, and Memorable Neurology, and I'm going to be focusing on some of the changes I made to improve the mnemonics in these in order to highlight what didn't work with some of the older versions, as well as what hopefully works better in the new ones. It wouldn't be right to do a video about making mnemonics without using a mnemonic itself to tie it all together, so let's use the acronym I-Recall to list out the key features of a solidly constructed mnemonic. The I is for important. The first step in making a mnemonic is the most critical, and that is to decide whether the mnemonic is worth making in the first place. Ideally, mnemonics should be used to highlight only the most important information, as otherwise they start to lose their power. I remember in college, one of my classmates had a habit of highlighting literally everything in their lecture notes. After studying, their entire page was a huge sea of yellow. This made it so that the power of highlighting, to make the most important information stand out from the rest, was lost. So think of mnemonics as being like a highlighter. You want to use them sparingly to give the most important stuff an extra boost. In going from the first to the second editions of my books, I took a few mnemonics out entirely because they didn't meet this threshold. For example, I had a mnemonic for the names of the deep cerebellar nuclei. However, try as I might, I could not come up with a good clinical reason to have to know these, so into the garbage can it went. You want to have a high bar here. Moving on, the R of recall is for relevant. Mnemonics are not there just to highlight information, they should ideally be relevant to a specific situation as well. What I mean by this is that there should be a well-defined place and time when the mnemonic will need to be used. In medicine, this is usually either on a test question or in actual clinical practice for answering questions like, what are the diagnostic criteria for this disorder? Or what are the treatment options for this disease? So even if the information is important, if there's not a time or a place when it will come into play, then consider whether there's the need for it. For example, there is a sad person's mnemonic for identifying people who are at high risk for suicide. However, the risk factors in this mnemonic only identify people who are at high risk at some point in their lifetime. In actual clinical scenarios, when deciding on whether to hospitalize someone, the relevant information is whether someone is at high risk in the near future. The mnemonic Guns N' Roses does a much better job of highlighting these risk factors, the ones that will actually come up in clinical decisions. The E of recall stands for emotional. One of the best ways to make a mnemonic memorable is to ensure that it provokes emotion. Decades of research on learning and memory have established beyond a shadow of a doubt that emotion is a crucial component for encoding new information. The more your emotions are engaged when learning information, the better you will be able to remember it later. When making mnemonics, if you feel bored or uninterested in the end result, it's probably a good sign that you need to start over. On the other hand, if you find yourself amused, surprised, or even disturbed by your own mnemonic, go with it. One mnemonic where I intentionally upped the emotion was the one for the 3 components of addiction, or repeated use of positive reinforcers despite negative repercussions. In the first edition, I called these simply the 3 Re's, which, while effective at capturing the 3 components, was kind of boring. In the second edition, however, I changed these into the 3 Reapers, which is a much more evocative and emotional image that also links to the idea that addiction can be a deadly disease. Pay attention to your own emotional response to information and try to replace any dry or drab concepts with more vivid or provocative imagery. The C of recall is for contrasting. The idea here is that mnemonics should not run together. Instead, they should be distinct, unique, and discriminable in order to be effective. If the mnemonic is so common or obvious that it will likely be used for different subjects, then it's not going to be easy to connect to the key information itself. A common one in medicine is the acronym ABCDE, or some variation of it, which has been used for determining if a mole is cancerous or not, listing the risk factors for esophageal cancer, coming up with the differential for vomiting, and interpreting chest x-rays, among others. This makes it easy to confuse the letters in one mnemonic for those in the other. Instead, try for sharp, focused mnemonics that will contrast well against other topics and not get easily confused. Next, the A in recall is for associable. When making mnemonics, you're essentially substituting something for a representation of it. For example, when using an acronym, you're using the first letter of the word to stand in for the word itself. However, if you aren't able to associate that letter with the original concept later, then the mnemonic hasn't actually helped you at all. Let's look at how this plays out in the differential for vomiting I referenced earlier. You'll see that for a few of these, the letters stand for things that aren't actually the thing itself. For example, the A stands for acute renal failure. This doesn't work well because the word acute is very nonspecific and is used in medicine to refer to any number of things. Instead, the important part is the word renal, which isn't actually the word that's being highlighted by the mnemonic. This shows the importance of making sure that each element of the mnemonic is easily associable with the thing it's meant to represent. To help combat this, try to make sure that the word in the mnemonic is the key one, and keep an eye on ensuring that the same letter isn't repeated multiple times, as this will also muddy the associability of each letter. For this reason, I try to avoid mnemonics that are all the same letter, although it's not a hard no, and I'll use these from time to time. One trick you can do here is to use a thesaurus to look for synonyms for important words that start with the same letter, so that you can substitute liver for hepatic or mental for psychiatric. As long as it's not too far off, a thesaurus will give you more options for coming up with a good acronym with easily associable and distinct elements. The L in recall is for linked to the thing itself. This one is crucially important. There are tons of mnemonics out there that are technically good, but when it comes time to actually use it, it's impossible to remember. This is because mnemonics are often made when they are used in a relatively low-stress environment, like studying in a coffee shop, but they aren't actually used until you're in a high-stress environment like a test or a patient encounter, when your ability to remember them is likely to be compromised. If you can't actually remember the mnemonic when it's needed the most, then there was no point to having memorized it in the first place. The best strategy to overcome this is to make sure that the mnemonic is clearly linked to the thing itself. You'll notice that I use this strategy a lot for my psychopharmacology mnemonics by embedding it into the drug name, like fluoxetine making you think of a flu that lasts a couple of weeks to link it to a long half-life, or paroxetine making you think of moving faster with 2-oxen to link it to a fast half-life, or squirtrulline making you think of GI side effects that are often seen with this drug in particular. That way, when you see these drugs on tests or in clinical settings, you're only one step away from knowing the most important information about it. An example of a mnemonic that I took out for not meeting this criteria was the acronym DAMP Despot DADS, which was meant to provide a comprehensive list of all possible mental disorder categories. While these letters did accurately capture all major categories, there was absolutely no connection between the mnemonic and its topic, making it easy to forget when it was needed the most. In the second edition, this mnemonic was updated to a map to mind space, which conjures mental imagery that links directly to the purpose of the mnemonic, to provide a guide for the pathology of the mind. If you have a list of words or ideas that you're trying to tie together into a solid mnemonic, one handy trick is to put the letters of each of them into a Scrabble solver and look at the words it produces. This may help you identify some good linked words that you hadn't thought of before. Finally, the second L of recall is for lean. The idea here is that each mnemonic should be as long as it needs to be, but no longer. There's a point where you can't fit any more information into a single mnemonic, and your ability to recall each item goes down. That's why, in general, I try to avoid mnemonics with 10 or more items in them. It's just going to be hard to remember. This isn't a hard and fast rule, and there are definitely mnemonics that I use with more than 10 items, but I try to limit these only to cases where the information demands that many, such as the list of 12 cranial nerves where you can't just leave 1 or 2 out. So now that we've taken a closer look at each item in the I recall mnemonic, let's use a few examples to show how this works in practice. For our first example, let's look at the mnemonic for the diagnostic criteria for PTSD, which is an acronym using the word trauma. First of all, how important is this information? Pretty important. This is how you'll be able to diagnose PTSD using the most commonly recognized diagnostic criteria. How about its relevance? You'll definitely use this both on tests and in clinical settings. How does it fare on the other metrics? I'd say the biggest strength of this mnemonic is that it is directly linked to the thing itself. The word trauma is the key concept behind PTSD and will easily contrast this mnemonic with mnemonics for other disorders. Each letter is also fairly associable, with only one letter being repeated, but the overall mnemonic is lean enough that it shouldn't be too big of a deal to come up with both A letters. The biggest downside to this mnemonic is that it's not necessarily good at provoking an emotional reaction, but the fact that it is so clearly tied to the word itself definitely outweighs that. All in all, it's a good mnemonic. For our next examples, let's look at a mnemonic that wasn't so great in a first edition and see how it was improved in the revision. I used the mnemonic, "It's clear he's too odd to hide outside," to highlight the features that are common in auditory hallucinations related to schizophrenia. I'd say this is important information diagnostically and is directly relevant to distinguishing auditory hallucinations in schizophrenia from those seen in other conditions. It also uses the words themselves, so it's fairly associable, as you don't have to worry about forgetting what each letter stands for. However, the downfall of this mnemonic is that it's not clearly linked to the thing itself, and it doesn't necessarily provoke any sort of emotional reaction. These two things make it so that this phrase doesn't readily come to mind when it needs to, and even if the phrase is remembered, it's hard to think of what exactly it's describing. It's also not very contrasting with other disorders, as the key word of the mnemonic, odd, could conceivably be applied to many other psychiatric conditions as well. So in the second edition, this mnemonic was replaced with the phrase vague odd liars, which fixes these key flaws. First, by shifting the focus from recognizing regular schizophrenia to distinguishing malingered psychosis, it gives it an even clearer relevant situation in which it can be used. It also allows for it to be linked to the thing itself, as the key word of liars should easily connect it to malingering. The word liars also provokes a much more vivid mental image and emotional reaction. The main thing that has been sacrificed here is associability, as there is now an acronym with letters whose significance needs to be memorized, but I'd say that by buffing up the linkedness and emotion of the mnemonic, we've made for a better mnemonic overall. And with that, let's go ahead and wrap up the video. Hopefully through this process you can see how you can evaluate your own mnemonics when you make them, and use that to craft even stronger versions. If you want to try it out now, I'd love to see your version of a mnemonic for the Romberg maneuver in neurology. Specifically, the key information here is that it's a test of three things: proprioception, vestibular function, and vision. Spend a few minutes to both make and appraise a mnemonic for the association between the word Romberg and those three things. Then put your take on it in the comments below. The best mnemonic may even get featured in a future revision of my book. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to message me or leave a comment below. Best of luck in your studies and have a great day.